So one of my subscribers asked me to make a video about 2D lighting. Well, your wish will come true now. But in my opinion it will be too boring if I will show you a video about only 2D lighting. So plus to it I would like to add one cool effect. That effect will allow you to switch daytime of the game. But first things first. And first we have to install all necessary components to add 2D lighting to our game. So the component we need to calls Universal Render Pipeline. And to install it we need to hit Window and open up Package Manager. So by default the Package Manager will search all packages inside your project. Which is why we need to change our search area to Unity Registry. Afterward, in top right corner of Unity Package Manager let's type in Universal. Select the Universal RP and hit Install. Now, when we finish the installation, we need to set up all necessary components to work with Render Pipeline. So you need to right-click in your project and then select Create, Rendering, and then URP asset with 2D renderer, and call it whatever you wish to. So next, we need to hit Edit and enter the project settings. Afterward, in Graphic tabs at the left, we need to set our Render Pipeline asset. Now we left only one thing to do. Well, it's pretty cosmetic, but I would like to recommend you to do that thing. We need to create several separated certain layers. We need to do it because light could be targeted to that layers. And if we do it at start, that will save us a bunch of time during development of the game. So to do it, you need to select any object in your game scene, select at the right corner in Inspector the layer, hit Add Layer, and in Certain Layers tab, you need to add necessary certain layers. As you can see, I've already added necessary layers to my project, and I would like to highly recommend you use the same structure. So now finally, when we are done with all our preparings, we can talk about 2D lighting. So here is the game scene from my game Druid Test of Faith. That's just an example scene for testing. And right now, as you can see, all sprites are displayed as it is without any lighting or anything added to it. So to see the light effect, all we need to do is to create 2D light source at this scene. So let's right click in hierarchy, select light, and then spotlight. And as you can see, everything turned to black. That's happening because right now the renderer understands that there is a light source it was seen, and the renderer must interact with it in some way. And by selecting a certain layer and the light source, we can manipulate with which one layer with light source will interact. We can set up the light preference at right in Inspector tab. But it will be much easier to turn on gizmos. We can manipulate with that point light with several different ways. By moving different manipulators, we can change its softness, radius, size, position, direction, and so on, whatever you wish to. Next, let's take a look at freeform light. There are 4 different pre-made forms of freeform light, but it doesn't care. You can create any form of freeform light, and by clicking on Edit Shape, you can drag it points and create new points and do whatever you would like to. Important to notice that freeform light do not have gizmos to control. You have to control it via script at right side in Inspector tab. Another method of adding light is really cool and I use it all the time. It's sprite light. So with sprite light, transforming the given sprite to light source. You can create any form of light in Photoshop or any other editor and add it to your game. It looks really great when you need to highlight precise object or just create sunspots. And last but not least, light is global light. That light effect can illuminate all game objects at all selected layers. And here is hidden the reason why I was asking you to create precise game certain layer structure. In most 2D platformers or game like Hollow Knight and Ori in the Blind Forest, the super foreground displays like silhouettes. And now we can easily achieve that effect with global lights and certain layers. Now let's take a look how game will look at camera view. It will be nice. The foreground silhouettes makes the scene feel deeper, and that is the effect we were looking for. Also, with help of certain layer, I can control which lights will interact with my player. You can set your player different characters and enemies to one certain layer, and highlight them with lights targeted to that certain layer. So that's all you need to know about simple 2D lighting. And now let's talk about how with using 2D lighting we can turn day to night. But that is pretty advanced level and hope you're ready for coding. So here is my minigame about Dying Light 2D, and if we will kill that one zombie, the daytime will be changed to night. So how is it working? Let's try to discover. And to explain you how everything is working, first I must explain you how interfaces is working in programming. So to be sure, the interface is a special script file which handles the interconnection between several different script files. And when we change data in the interface, it will launch special function in all scripts which shares the same interface. Pretty complex, isn't it? But don't be afraid. Now I will show you how it works in real life. If at this scene we will select the lights container game object, at the right top corner we can see the lights color controller. That is our interface, and let's open it up. Here you can see the public interface, color setter interface. And it contains of two empty functions, refresh and set color. Next we have another public class, light color controller. It helps us to control everything around scene, and please notice what there is execute in edit mode, right? That helps us to see in real life time what's happening when we change the values. This method has few parameters which we will need to. It's time for controlling daytime, it's setters, the collection of color setters, and the current time as temp variable. Next we have public head setters method. That method helps us to get collection of all color setter interfaces around the scene. And when we will launch our game in onEnable method, we will set time to 0, collect all setters and updated values. I guess there is no need to explain you what's happening on disable and in update method. But update setters is much more interesting. We've taken our collection of setters and launching the function setColor through the interface we have. And that setColor function is also implemented in a few different scripts sharing the same color setter interface. For example, the light color setter. And here is another interesting thing hidden, because when we change the color time in the interface function, the light color we take in here is taken from gradient. We're representing the gradient bar as distance between 0 and 1. And in case of this one gradient, the value of 0.5 will represent the brown color in the middle of that gradient. And for that script, for each function collecting all light elements for that game object, and via gradient.evaluate, it transforms the time to the light color. The third one script in that group designed specially for shader graph materials. In this video I won't tell you about shader graph, but by using this one precise script you can change all colors for all materials around the scene. All you need to do is to create a special parameter in shader graph and with your reference give it a name. Afterward you will be able to use that name with a material color setter. And don't forget about the gradient. And the last one script is about sprite color setter. If you would like to change the color of current sprite, you need to do it in this way. Alrighty then, now we are done with scripts, and let me briefly explain you everything what you will need to do when you will rewrite the scripts to your game. So first you need to create empty game object. That will be our lights container. Next you need to create inside that lights container two global lights. One only for super foreground, another one for everything else except super foreground. Afterward you should add light color setter to global light, which includes everything except super foreground. Next create a gradient which will fit to a game. I'm using that one gradient. Next, move to the lights container and add the light color controller. And that's it, now everything should work fine. All rest positions and color setters are quite optional, and depends on do you use shader graph materials or not. Oh, and one more tip, if suddenly lights do not work, then most likely it's cause of material, and you will need to change your sprite's material to sprightly default. Do not worry, it applies with Universal Render Pipeline module. So I guess it's all you need to know about the Unity 2D lighting and how to create night using that lights. If you do not wish to write this code manually, you can always support me on Patreon and download the necessary code from there. And as always, I must say thanks to my loneliest samurai Patreon, S-Rose. Thank you. If you have questions left, you can always ask me in comment section below. So thank you for watching and see you in the next video.